King Tut, one of the most famous pharaohs of Egypt. This is an exhibition, as I walk through for the next 30 minutes, was displayed in Los Angeles in 2018. Let's explore the Valley of the Kings, down the River Nile, where kings and pharaohs were buried. In Egypt, Part 1 of King Tut. The alabaster treasures are the start of this exhibition. You can still buy alabaster, even today. Of course, maybe you can say it's not as beautiful, or not historic, the same as the ones that were buried with the pharaohs. Alabaster chairs, pots, the wonderful mementos. These were buried with the pharaohs as part of the preparation for the journey into the netherworld, into the afterlife. You can see so many vases made of calcite and alabaster. The hieroglyphics describe a journey that is going to be made. Paintings on the side of a tomb represent different myths, different stories, and also part of a history of the life of a pharaoh. Preparation. So priests prepared Tutankhamun. The priests would prepare the body. They'd take out the jars of Horus for internal organs, but leave the external skeleton and skin that would be preserved and mummified, and you can still see those mummies today. The journey included different boxes, gloves, ornaments, traveling boxes. I try to describe, and through the pictures and images, the beauty of these objects. The craftsmanship is just so impressive. The same craftsmanship that prepared them for their journey. The traveling chest with handles for people to carry what would be here is made of ebony and ivory. Beautiful wood. So the netherworld, how did they bury these people? The Book of the Dead, there are quotations throughout. Now you can pause the video to read the quotations if you're interested. This is a miniature game made of ivory. Different boards. 2 full games could be made here in this miniature crafted games board. The harpoon for hunting. Were these the clothes of a pharaoh? Loose-fitting. The prey was a hippopotamus, which represented the evil Seth. The Nile brought life, animals, and food. The hippopotamus, even today, kills hundreds of people around the world every year because it's rather angry. Perhaps that's why it became evil. Horus, the son of Osiris, the king's prey. The panther is the lord of 2 lands, and the next sculpture, you can see underneath here, what is he riding on? What is he standing on with his hunting? It's actually a black panther. The black panther is a mystical, mythological creature. It is going to take King Tut into the netherworld, safely transporting him as a vehicle. We can see the beautiful ornaments. Now remember that King Tut, Tutankhamun, was the pharaoh of the 18th dynasty. He ruled from 1332 to 1323 BC, during the reign known as the New Kingdom. Did you think that boomerangs were only found in Australia? Well, they also used them 3,000 years ago in Egypt as well. Some more of the coffin texts, the writings on the texts, different images, scarves, symbols of power, and these displays. So there were 32 statues like this. This exhibit was donated from the Egyptian Museum. They gave 100 objects in this display, and we're going to go through some of these objects and explore them. We can see the nets, magic spells written on papyrus rolls or tomb walls. Next we have an image of a lion tamer. Well, it looks like the lion is held up by its tail. Maybe it's a very strong person. This is not the way you should probably handle the lion. Of course, it doesn't look like a friendly gesture. Hunting of animals was widespread. This is a resting bed. Gilded wooden bed with an ebony frame. It's one of the great monuments for this exhibit. As the sleeper awakes, then different gods will come to greet. You can see the craftsmanship of this. It's really wonderful. The bar and the car. So these are food for the royal car. Look at these containers. Okay? It's amazing. All these objects. It sort of makes us speechless. The head of Osiris shall not be taken from him. Okay. These are headrests, pillows. This reminds us of some of the objects we see in Chinese museums as well. These are boats. Boats are very important along the River Nile to take us on a journey. They're painted. A seat for the royal king. A rudder that be controlled and steered by the royal staff. Look at the seat, the carving. Again, ebony and ivory. It's a wooden footrest and then an armchair of Tutankhamun. So here we can see the objects. Probably objects like this were in the palace for regular use as well. Different emblems, religious emblems, faith emblems, jewelry in jewelry boxes. Gold finger ring. Gold rings have been used for thousands of years. How do you maintain a mat? There's a serpent on a stick, a gilded wooden stick. The king's image was also provided as a sphinx. We're going to come back to this later, but there are images of the sphinx, these mythical creatures. The paint is also very impressive, as is the gold writing and the gold. The Book of the Dead has 200 spells gathered over the centuries from Egypt. They deal with the end of life. These are bows and arrows. The bow case is also this wonderful inlaid work, which you can see. How can we represent this? Look at the turquoise on the end. The carvings of different animals. At the end is glass. So it's a composite. No doubt the king would also be trained in martial arts, in fighting, as were his protectors, the soldiers. To come out of the dignity of Shu, I have treated Osiris. These are prayers, spells. A ceremonial mace. The mace has been used for thousands of years in ceremonies. Different knives, different objects. There are many statues representing some of the holy gods, the animals that are mystical and spiritually strong and important for the afterlife. You can read the explanation both in English and Spanish in this video from the displays. Who were the guardians of the afterlife? Look at their head, different symbols of spirituality, the sandals that are here, the guardian statue, the guardian god. These were accompanying King Tut. So the Ka statue is life-size, the same size as the king would have been. We can see the different statues. Re and Osiris. The sun sets on each evening. This is a prayer. So the sun is clearly important. But once you're dead, the rebirth is important. You need to reunite the Ba and the Ka. Well, you can read more about the mythology of Egyptian spirituality. But we're here looking at the wonderful artifacts of the tomb. These images with Shakti, gilded hymn's headdress. As we explore every side of these statues is a masterpiece. Gold has always been considered regal and holy. Tutankhamun was estimated to be 167 centimeters tall. But the importance of the kings and the pharaoh's preparation, because his tomb was undisturbed, provides us really a glimpse into what all the pharaohs may have been prepared. So the canopic jars had a stopper on top. Now inside these canopic jars, the soft organs would be put and stored, taken out of the body, but also still buried in the tomb. So here's one of the layers. You can see gold for the fingers. You can see different ways that this was prepared. Gilded sandals. If we could read, as some people can, you can read the explanation. So his father was Akhenaten, and his mother was one of his father's 5 sisters. And this is what is reported. There's still questions. The young king's mother was found through the DNA testing of a mummy designated as a younger lady, which was found lying besides King Tyre in the alcove of KV-35. Her DNA proved that, like his father, she was a child of Amenhotep III and Tayet. So, Tutankhamun's parents were brother and sister. Queen Tyre held much political influence at the court and acted like an advisor. After the death of her husband, some geneticists are questioning, however, but this is what it is. So wooden shanty was found in a coffin. Different objects are found here as you explore. How were the coffins exposed? The beautiful work, the gold inlaid, the jewellery, these are all symbols of the king. How did he die? That's also a fascinating theme. But look more at his jewellery as well. Look at the precious stones. Do we make jewellery like this still today? Well, yes, you can get at a price fit for a king as well. These different emblems, flattened of gold, malleable, and able to be preserved for so long. A Wessex collar. The embalmers put these collars around the neck, several of them. The symbol of rebirth. So these are the symbols. These insects, along with the others, the symbols of rebirth. The Book of the Dead, the heart of our mother. The ornamentation here is amazing. As you can see, the symbols of rebirth also put. These are open work in gold. We can zoom in and see parts of hair. Luster, still here, was brought back when discovered, when a tomb again was opened in 1922. It's thought that King Tut is probably accidentally died. He seems to have had a compound left leg fracture shortly before his death, and a leg had become infected. So DNA analysis in 2010 showed the presence of malaria in the system. So maybe the combination of malaria and cholera disease too led to his death. There's also a theory of some German scientists that he may have died of sickle cell disease, but it's not generally agreed to because he survived much longer than you'd expect somebody with sickle cell disease to live. Look at the more of jewelry. These are all ornaments that we could imagine. Well, we needed many workers to prepare for the afterlife. Some of these workers are represented also in statues and statuettes that you can find also in the tomb. And some of these are preserved here, representing different trades, helping the pharaoh to be reborn. So these are some other ornaments, a crook and a flare. You can see bronze work also here. Looking back, animals, other emblems, other spirits are also present here. So the different layers of what was inside a tomb are interesting here as well. How was it preserved? They certainly did a good job at preserving the body and preserving all the ornaments. They were lasted materials. A figure of Tata on the household passive. A figurine of a king. Miniature of gold. So we can see still today some of these features. People have been fascinated with King Tut for 100 years. Different gods and ancestors were important. So the death of Tutankhamun and the two stillborn children buried with him represent the end of this Tamaside family line. Look at the emblems, the images. So here's Tutankhamun's wishing cup in the form of an open lotus and two buds. It's beautiful. So his wishing cup. Did he wish to be found? Did he wish that this would be discovered one day? Perhaps he did. But really he wanted to come back. So the widow of Tutankhamun married Ah, and he became a pharaoh. But a war between the two countries, and Egypt was left defeated. So it's interesting. The history here. But also let's look at the significance of the tomb and the discovery. What were the hints that would take the people to explore into the Valley of the Kings, to explore and find the tomb? In 1922, the discovery by Howard Carter of Tutankhamun's nearly intact tomb, funded by Lord Carnarvon, received worldwide press coverage. Imagine as they opened the tomb, as the light came in, what would they see? So they saw different objects. Some of these were here in this exhibit. The water boy, golden laid petrel. These are examples. The water boy found a hint, and from the water boy's then they could find they're about to give up. This is a history of the long periods of it took to find the tomb. You can see the journey, different incidents of archaeologists. They went through before World War I and after. So 1922, this is the discovery. So this is the journey of King Tut. There are so many images. The Pharaoh's tomb is covered in news media all around the world. Carter and Carnarvon. Was it Aladdin's cave? No, well it sounded like that. It was King Tutankhamun's cave. So here we see wonderful artifacts. Some of them. We have to go to Cairo to see more. I've had the pleasure to do so, and it's a wonderful, wonderful collection. Just even small objects of it are already grasping the imagination. As we think about afterlife, think about civilizations in the past and all those alive today, how important it is that we preserve the civilizations and we find more about cultures and their knowledge and what was their philosophy. That's enough for another video, another journey. So the Grand Egyptian Museum will be built, and this will see a much bigger display room or rooms than in the previous one, which I visited. So our journey to Egypt, I hope this was great for the fascination. Egypt has so many interesting stories in the history of science, philosophy and medicine. And here we have on religion as well, and the royals.